you don't want to end up like this good-for-nothing gamer, huh? Well then listen up, because in this video I'll be exploring the innermost mechanics of the old bird. To get started, let's talk about the three main sections of this video. Firstly, I will talk about the basics of the old birds. Secondly, I will talk about all the tricks I know to deal with them. And lastly is the controversial part, where I tell you the pros and cons to these things, because yes, there are pros. Welcome to section 1. Old birds are very weird and need some explaining. Unlike most enemies where they do a set amount of damage when they touch you, old birds have multiple attacks and can hurt you in 4 different ways. Old birds can fire rockets at you, stomp on you, land on you, and of course cook you. Congratulations. The rockets and stomp deal 30 damage, the cooking will insta-kill you, and if the old bird lands on you... oh right, literally just move slightly over to avoid getting crushed. Also remember that when an old bird is flying, it will make a loud audible noise like a plane flying through the air. Just listen. Old birds will sit around the map stagnant until they are woken up. When they wake up is literally random, unless of course you pull the apparatus, which will... oh no. Old birds roam the map looking for something to kill, and it can be pretty much anything. From dogs, to giants, to of course, you. Not the kidnapper fox, however, for some reason. God, I'm glad he's gone. Once you are in front of an old bird, its light will turn on, and just like a giant, it will gain suspicion before it attacks, allowing you to have a chance to run. Its suspicion climbs fast though, only taking about 1.5 seconds to go into its attack phase. The old bird makes it clear it's in this phase by moving very fast and making strange noises, which I often replace with Spamton because funny. If you're far from an old bird, it will shoot at you, but when you're really far away, the old bird will launch itself at you. Lastly, old birds are unkillable. No amount of shovel hits, knife stabs, or shotgun shells will kill them. Flashbangs can actually stun them, however, but this won't save your friend if they got grabbed. Welcome to section 2. In this part, I'll be telling you all my tips and tricks when it comes to the old birds. Jumping right into it, let's talk about my favorite trick and one I abuse constantly. When you are close enough to the old bird, it will try to grab you. This grab is very easy to dodge as long as you aren't trying to run under the old bird's legs. Getting it to grab you will buy you about a second, which can help a ton. When old birds walk around without seeing anything to attack for a while, they will fly into the air. When in the air, they can see a lot, making it near impossible to avoid getting spotted unless you're behind cover. There's a way to get around this though, and while yes, you can crouch to avoid detection entirely, that means you have to move very slowly. Instead, if you keep running, then when the old bird lands, as long as you're behind it, it will immediately go back to roaming around, losing you entirely. Now I know earlier that I stated old birds are unkillable, but if you're an absolute legend, you can use earthworms to kill old birds. It's a very hard trick to pull off, which is why there's a different way that's much less difficult and functionally kills the old bird. It only works on artifice though. On artifice, there are warehouses which have levers next to their doors. Pulling the lever will cause the door to close slowly. Using the slow door to your advantage, wait for the old bird to just begin walking into the warehouse, then flick the lever, run past the old bird, and get out before the door shuts. Alternatively, you can use the back door to the warehouse. Doing this trick isn't easy, but will give your team a lot of help as long as there aren't things for the old bird to kill. Remember that not all warehouses are made equal. The warehouse I was showing this trick off at is the best, as it has this long hallway where even if a few rockets hit you, it'll give you a boost more than anything. The warehouse directly across from it is worse, as if you try to leave through the back door, rockets will mess you up if they hit you. Then this warehouse sucks even more than the last, having this thick fog making it very difficult to maneuver to the back door if you didn't memorize it. Also, this warehouse is closed at the start of every day, meaning you'll have to go through the back door and fumble around until you find the lever to even use the warehouse. Finally, there's this warehouse, which is immediately closed, but that's because it can't be used. The back door is even blocked because of this boulder, and if you're wondering what's in this warehouse, then prepare to be disappointed. Before I move on, I've got one more tip on these warehouses. You may have noticed that I caused the old bird to do its grab animation whenever I go around the old bird. Earlier I shared this trick because it buys you about a second, but in this case it will also prevent the old bird from doing something like shooting rockets, which makes the trick overall more consistent. Now it's time to talk about a very powerful trick. This trick will save your life countless times and has a lot of uses. This trick is easy to learn but difficult to master. I am of course talking about rocket surfing. In order to rocket surf, you must first know how the rocket works. Rockets travel very unpredictably, frequently turning and changing direction. The important thing to do is jump before you think a rocket is going to hit you. If the rocket hits you while you're in the middle of a jump, you will get a big boost, which can of course help you get away from old birds, but also if you do a really good jump, you can even lose the old bird. Properly predicting rockets will also help you get away without even getting hurt. The rockets only damage you if you're very close to them, meaning you can get a boost without taking damage. Weight plays a big role in your survival. At lower weights you can get further and avoid detection easier, but with a high weight being around 60 pounds or higher, you will struggle to avoid getting caught and rely more on rocket surfing. Something I didn't mention earlier is that if a rocket hits the ground directly beneath you, you will instantly die. This only really comes into play with higher weight, and even then is rare, but use this fact to remind you to jump, since a rocket can't instantly kill you when you're airborne. This trick can take a lot of luck, but experiment with rocket surfing enough and you'll understand how to abuse it. Before I end this segment, I'd like to talk about one more critical thing to know about the old birds. The old bird's movement is trash. Old birds walk around one step at a time. This makes them very slow and also easy to stay behind. Knowing this can help you get away, but just don't try this when an old bird is already attacking you. Time for section 3, the pros and cons of the old birds. Old birds can seem dangerous, unhelpful, and most of all, 19 feet tall, 11 feet wide with a flashlight that is capable of emitting 100,000 lumens. All of these are very true, but much like things such as nutcrackers and butlers, old birds carry the key to success. Only not literally like they do. So what do I mean? Since old birds kill all other enemies and old birds are very exploitable, it should be clear by now that dealing with an old bird is actually a lot easier than dealing with, say, a giant. By keeping an old bird around and not locking them up, you will basically have to worry only about the old bird. This is made even better if you have a jetpack, since old birds can't catch you if you fly smart. Also, since you're using a jetpack, your team will only have to worry about large objects, so they will move much faster. And as previously stated, old birds are pretty easy to deal with when you're under 60 pounds. Now you can see why I left this section for last. Now that you have the knowledge required to exploit the old bird, let's actually get into comparing the pros and cons of these things. Starting with the cons, old birds are unpredictable, and despite their nature to kill everything, if they lock onto you, they will hunt you and only you. This will lead to scenarios where you have to crouch because there's a dog, but the old bird is only going for you, which as you can imagine can very easily lead to your death. All enemies also do not care about old birds, so they will continue hunting you as usual even if an old bird is actively killing them. This again can cause a lot of danger if the old bird is doing a bad job killing all the enemies. This is why, from my experience, I would actually recommend keeping 2 old birds out of the warehouses, since late into the day a lot of enemies tend to spawn on Artifice. The final big issue is just that old birds aren't always going to work out. They are random in nature, so sometimes they will mess you up. Especially considering that if you do become critically injured, it's basically like holding 200 pounds that you cannot drop while standing in front of an old bird. You will likely find yourself dying mostly because of this. Now for the pros. Old birds of course kill everything for you. Now it's true that if there are too many old birds then it can become unmanageable, but as long as you make sure to either bring jetpack or lock up the old birds, they will become more of a help than a hazard. Old birds do lock onto targets, but this can help you. Enemies like giants take a long time for the old bird to kill due to their lengthy burning animation. Using this to your advantage, if you notice an old bird attacking something other than you, especially giants, then this is the perfect time to bolt it to the ship. Even if there are a lot of old birds, multiple will lock onto the same enemy, which will give you the initiative to run. Alrighty, well I'd like to say thank you so much for making it this far in the video, and before I end off, I'd like to share one more trick for dealing with the old birds. Hello, old bird. So there's 100 wolves. In all seriousness, guys, thanks for watching my video. You know the drill, become my 257th subscriber today. I got a video up here, I got a video up here. And since you stuck around till the very end, here's a subtle hint as to what my next video is going to be about.